Hey Taylorians, greetings and welcome to our podcast series on What's Up, Conversations on EQ, which is on emotional intelligence. I am Michelle Francis, a life skill facilitator, and today we have our special guest who is Mr. Hardy Barnabas with us today, and we will be talking about a topic on resilience and adaptability. Now, a little bit about our special guest here today. Hardy is the Vice President of Business Development at Aerodyne, heading Aerodyne's global business operation across 35 countries. And his diverse career spans across fashion, F&B, energy, biosafety, and drones, which highlights his resilience and adaptability throughout his career. Welcome, Hardy. How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Michelle. Feeling good, Monday, first day of the week.
Yeah.
And trying to get the week going strong. So today I'm feeling good. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
No problem.
With the opportunity to share. I look forward to our conversation.
Right, that's great. I also heard that besides all the areas of your career that you are also a chef. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so cooking has always been my passion from very early on,
Right.
It came from just being at the house with awesome food that my parents and family cooked.
Okay.
And one of my first job was actually cooking in the kitchen.
Oh, really?
So, cooking at home and cooking in the kitchen in the shop is not the same. It's where, shop you have structure.
Right.
So that's where you learn to have skills in cooking when you're cooking with a chef.
Correct.
I thought that was a nice skills to have, and
Okay.
I kept on cooking to this day. And various stages of my life later on after college or even during college, I continued to work part-times here and there in kitchens.
Oh, wow.
So I love cooking. I love food. Cooking and food also translate to culture. And I love seeing and learning different culture.
Okay.
And that interest is still with me to this day.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What's that one dish that you would cook, you'd nail it? What would that be?
On top of my head right now, I know ceviche comes to mind. Ceviche,
Okay.
or in local context,
Right.
in Sarawak. I'm being from Sarawak. We have
Okay.
our version of ceviche,
Okay.
and we call it umai.
Ah,
Here in Peninsula Malaysia, it's equivalent to kerabu.
okay.
The difference is raw versus like boil or cook kerabu.
Okay.
So ceviche, the Peruvian ceviche is typically fish, raw fish. That's
Right.
like cooked in lime juice.
Okay.
So we do the same with ours. Instead of using lime juice, it uses calamansi, and uses, of course, local fish in Sarawak.
Right.
It's ironic because there's no cooking involved in that.
Okay.
You're using lime juice. The acidity of the lime or the calamansi, kills the bacteria of the fish and it allows you to eat it safely.
Right.
So it's not like sushi. Sushi is really pure
Yeah.
and it's raw.
Raw.
Yeah. This one, the juice of the lime or calamansi gives that flavor and also kills the whatever bacteria is supposed to be eaten when it's raw.
Okay. Wow, this is really interesting. Something that I've not
You never had it?
tried. No.
Okay.
I would love to someday.
You
Thank
should check
you.
it out.
Yeah, I will.
Ceviche or umai.
Okay. Very interesting.
Some
Thank you
Spanish
so much.
restaurant here should plant you.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Thank you so much for sharing all these extra points about yourself. It's
Sure.
definitely a plus.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive into our topic for today on resilience and adaptability. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's two strong words. What do they actually mean to you, and how would you translate them into your own words?
Resilience and adaptability. I think resilience, one thing that came to mind for me is not giving up, the attitude of not giving up, and patient.
Right.
And in doing those, having those, you have to be able to, I think adaptability comes naturally when you're resilient. It could be, one as a result of the other. Of course, these are the things that mostly occur when there's like challenging time, during difficult times. But it doesn't have to be necessarily just for a difficult time for you to adapt. But it could be during good times as well. It could be missed opportunities, when we're like very content. And when you're content, you're not, it can translate to being just relaxed.
Right.
And not adapting to the situation and not being resilient as well. And you might cause you lost opportunities in these times. So resilience and adaptability, I think they come together. And it is about not giving up and really looking out to opportunities that's out there, whether it's for your career, as a life as a student, or personal family situation. I think that it could relate to all of them.
That's great. I think I can definitely relate to how you mentioned that they both sort of work together, because when you build resilience, then you automatically have the adaptability that comes in, to sort of help you to cope with the situation. You also mentioned about a challenge that, when you have challenges, then it's important to build resilience. Is there a particular phase in your life that you had a challenging experience that you had to build resilience and adaptability to cope with it?
Yep, absolutely. I think there are, at this point, I've experienced that multiple occasions, at multiple scales and different situations as well.
Right.
One of the first memorable or early on in my life when I had to really understand what it means to be resilient and to adapt was when I first moved to the States. I moved there to continue my study. That was in the year 2005 after I finished my Form 6 from Kuching. At that point, I've never lived abroad.
Right.
So I was first. Yeah, my first. So I straight from Kuching all the way to the U.S. My sister invited me over at times. She had already moved out there, but when I went there, I was technically alone when it comes to like friends and people that I know other than my sister. And culturally too, I came straight from Kuching all the way to the U.S. where everything that I know about it.
Complete switch.
Oh yeah, and everything I know about America was from TV. And like any Malaysian, we spoke decent English, right? But it's not what I thought it was when I got there. Speaking English the way we spoke English here
is very different.
It's very different with our heavy, at least for me, it's some heavy accent. Nobody understood me, so that was very difficult. Thinking that I was speaking in English, but nobody understood me.
Oh my gosh, that must have been really tough.
Yeah. So language is one thing, and then there comes the food. Like I said, never live abroad.
Right.
In 2005 in Kuching, we probably only had reference to, Western food. We call nowadays probably just Pizza Hut and your KFC and McDonald's. There was no like Italian joints or whatever and cheeses. As compared to today, you go to a supermarket, it's like going to a supermarket overseas, right?
Completely relatable.
Yeah, so, I was ordering a burger and they asked me what kind of cheese you want. Do you want cheese on it? I said, yes. What kind of cheese? Like, how many kind of cheeses do I know? I know cheese. That's about it.
That's
so,
nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, and they're waiting for me. Yeah, what kind of cheese? Like, I never had the reference before.
Right.
So, I had to learn that. So, that's one of the reasons why I love food. Because it brings you culture, understanding. But and then there's like even the way people walking on the street too, because we give way on the so we walk on the left side here,
right? Yeah.
If you were giving way, you're giving way to the left.
Right.
So people can pass you on the right. It's
Okay.
the opposite,
There. Oh.
even on the street.
Ah.
So imagine you're walking a busy street.
And
You
it's
keep on bumping into people
Oh,
because you're not
gosh.
used to, like, you give way to the right
right.
instead of giving way to the left.
Oh gosh.
So these are nothing major, really, if you think about it. These are like social norms, but it does have an impact to the way you think about things, you know. So that I think gave me the forced me to adapt to the situation, and that builds resilience
Right.
from a very different context. And this is being like in a foreign country. If I don't try to adapt, I'll be lost completely because I'm not in a position where there's a backup for me, meaning a backup to, you know, your community or whatever that's didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
But I think that one thing that helped is because growing up, I kind of have to adapt a lot as well. I'm native Sarawak kid.
Right.
My parents are, my mom's Iban, my dad's Bidayu. But when I was in kindergarten, I was sent to a Chinese school.
Oh, okay.
So, and with, you know, the Chinese community in Sarawak, Chinese kids speaking in, you know, in Mandarin.
Right.
And I don't speak that language either
Okay.
at the time. So very early on, I had to adapt to a
that.
situation, and that was throughout kindergarten all the way to primary school. You know, throughout primary school till primary 6. In addition to that, because my dad was in the government sector, he moved every 4 years. So did us as a family.
You had to relocate.
Yes. So again, adaptability.
It was throughout.
Yeah, throughout. You know, by the time I found myself a best friend, I had to move and leave that best friend behind. And
That must have been hard.
yeah, I think you get used to it
Right.
after some point. So you just don't have attachment. Could be a good or a bad thing, right?
Right. Yeah, to think about
Yeah.
it.
But it was I didn't think about it that built me, my character, until because again your environment you're familiar with. This is me. This is happening to me in Sarawak. I have my family, my parents. I'm living at my parents' house, moving around with my family. So you're still content into this environment where you're familiar with.
Right.
But when you're taken out of it, this is what I mean by you're being put in the U.S. Similar situation, but completely different environment. So that's when I guess you turn up the adaptability notch a bit.
Right. Wow. So
Yeah.
it really looks like this adaptability has been there throughout your entire. But just out of curiosity, what made your parents decide to put you in a school, in a Chinese school?
Yeah, I
really
ask that all the time. I
yeah.
think the only answer probably like they just wanted me to learn another language.
Oh, so you can actually speak?
I can not as well as I used to be. So I
Right.
used to,
Okay.
you know, it's kindergarten throughout primary 6. So I used to read, write, speak obviously very fluently,
Wow.
write well enough,
Okay.
and I could write an essay. I was that good,
Oh, that's great.
but I lost it, most of it.
Because you sort of lost touch.
Yeah, it's
Right.
all about if you don't practice it, you just But I could still understand when people speak in
Speak
Mandarin,
to you.
especially here in Malaysia.
Right.
But there's another thing, the accent. When I was in the U.S., even going to a Chinese store, I started speaking Mandarin. They also didn't understand me. It's like,
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
it was different for that language as well? For
yeah,
Mandarin?
I think it's the accent. So we have a Malaysian accent.
Right,
In English or in Chinese, Mandarin particularly. So
Wow.
yeah, so there are certain words that they say that we use a slang to
Okay.
describe here, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing this this personal experience of yours. Now,
Sure.
having to have all these qualities with you, how do you think it has helped throughout your journey that you're here now, and I believe you're the vice president of Aerodyne, and how do you think all of this has contributed to where you are now?
Yeah, I think that being adaptable to a situation is it applies to a lot of situation in my life up to this point. It definitely contribute to putting me where I'm at right now, giving me the opportunity. Had I have not been adaptable and resilient to situation in the past, I don't think I will have the opportunity or would have seen or met the opportunities that I've had. So it, for instance, when I came back from the States and decided to come back and to work in Malaysia, because when I left Kuching, I went straight to the US,
Right.
and been there for about 10 years, my entire 20s. And then when I decided to come back, I wanted to experience KL. So I, purposely come back and got myself in KL. And I started my career in KL in the retail business, fashion industry, where I was with a startup, helped to start up the company and opening up branches around KL and all that. So startup companies are you got to be very do a lot of multitasking. You got to wear a lot of hats,
Right.
Taking up a lot of different kind of responsibilities.
Okay.
And that's where adaptability, comes in. And it's not always easy as well. So if you don't have that adaptability and understand, how a startup function, it's easy to give up. It gets frustrating very quickly. But that's where adaptability and resilience comes in play for me. Allow me to endure the process, being with the startup company, until I completed my task, or until to a point where I'm moving on to the next job. And it wasn't the best time at the time, and the business ended up wind up for because of the opportunity. Is the business wasn't doing well, essentially, and I had to find another way of surviving, right? So in transition, while looking for another job, I picked up on my favorite skill, which is cooking.
Okay. That came into handy.
Yeah, so that was handy.
That's great.
I always cook anyway, so I just turned it into something that to sustain myself at that point of time. So doing a bit of catering here and there. Just picked up some events here and there to just sustain myself. And I'm a lifelong learner. I always like to learn, and one of the things that I decided at that point is to go into a different industry, just to expand my broaden my knowledge.
Right.
So that's when I joined a company that was doing energy savings solutions.
Right.
It's a very engineering-centric company. I did not come from a...
It's a complete switch.
Yeah, I didn't come from an engineering background. But I thought that was a skill that I needed to have. Not a skill, more of a knowledge about technology. So I think that was the main focus there, is to get myself into a technology space, because technology evolved. And I thought that would be a good thing to have in my portfolio as I move in my career. I have, having the technology background, whether in the capacity of business development or marketing or sales, whatever, having that will really help with the future, whatever, wherever my career may take me. So I think that was a good experience to have when I was in this technology company. Then COVID hit.
Oh yeah.
So
COVID happened.
when I was with the previous business, we had our challenges and it didn't work out. And then
Right.
thinking, okay, things are different now, and then you're in a different industry in the technology space, and then Mother Nature decide to, step in and say, the whole world, you stop. From
Stop.
yeah,
Take a break.
take a break. So that was like nobody saw that coming, right?
Oh yeah.
Everyone, just everything just literally stopped.
Yeah. It was drastic.
Yeah, that was really something. So we had to really quickly think of a way to endure it. How to go through this process, and there was no like light at the end of the tunnel at the beginning of it, because when they close everything, it's like, how long?
Yeah.
We don't know for how long.
Yeah,
And then the main part of the business was was within the hospitality industry.
Okay.
We were serving hotels and resorts and factories,
Right.
and these places were not open. So, your clients don't have business. How can you have business, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. But fortunately, we have a part of the offerings in the company was a biosafety. We turned it into a biosafety really, but it was for keeping hot water system clean. So one of the device that we have is to inject basically a water-based disinfectant into the water line, so it prevents the formation of mold.
Okay.
Because when you have mold forming in your water line, it
Right.
affects its efficiency, especially for hot water system.
Okay.
So this disinfectant could also be used for surface cleaning and all that.
Okay.
And another way of preventing growth of mold is by lighting up UV lights, UVCs particularly.
Okay.
So that's it was used for other application, but during
Right.
COVID we turned it around and then use it to disinfect surfaces
Right.
and all these things.
Wow.
And I had to very quickly learn about biosafety at the time.
That's complete switch.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, I had to learn about regulation,
Okay.
particularly with the Ministry of Health. If you recall, hand sanitizer has to be 90% alcohol at the
Yeah.
time. If it wasn't 90% and alcohol, it's not endorsed.
Okay.
They don't work,
Right.
at least according to regulation, or not accepted. We have a just as efficient disinfectant or hand sanitizer, but it was water-based. It's made out of water.
Water. Okay.
And for us to be able to put it out in the market, we have to get it approved by the Ministry of Health.
Right.
And at the time it was the Pharmaceutical Regulation Agency, the NPRA. So I had to learn about regulation and know the ins and outs of how this this disinfectant or hand sanitizer market worked. And that was also something that I've never done before.
Wow. I can see that from this stories that you have shared. You have stepped a lot out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
like so many times to be able to build resilience and adapt to the situation. So I think that's something I really admire about whatever you have shared, because it's really great to be able to bounce back,
Yeah.
which most of the time people would want to just give up, and when they see a downfall coming, they just go like, oh no, this is the end, I'm
Yeah.
gonna crash. For example, the story that you shared about what happened during the pandemic, I think many businesses and mostly everyone was affected, and
Yeah.
to be able to adapt and have a backup within a very short period of
Yeah.
time
Absolutely.
is definitely something really tough. But thank you so much for sharing this.
No problem.
This is definitely value added to this entire session for us.
Yeah.
So with that, what would be that one advice you would give the younger generation in terms of how they can actually bounce back and to adaptability, to resilience? Because we notice that the younger generations these days, they come from very different background and very different exposure, as well as expectations. What would be that one advice you would give out to them?
I think that one of the most important thing is to have an open mind, because you never know what's going to happen. You can plan as much as you can, and plans don't always work. It's good to have a plan. I'm not always a great planner, but I've been trained to also plan, exposed to planning. If you leave me to the way my default setting, I'm not a planner. I don't plan at all. Just go with the flow.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes in life we just want to go with the flow, right? And I agree that you mentioned that, when you plan things and things don't go your way.
My wife is a great planner.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's where it comes. You got to balance out. The whole you can't just go with the flow of everything either. You cannot have it all basically. But appreciate. And then I became appreciative of coming up with plans, and but you got to be open. If stick too much to a plan and then when something doesn't work out, and you're not being open, then it can devastate you as well.
Right.
So if you have an open mind, in addition to that, it's the willingness to learn as well of other, especially nowadays in this age of digital information. There's so much information, so easy to get, as opposed to just maybe 10 years ago. Keep learning. There's of any interest, and speaking about interest, also find that passion. If you're passionate about something, you could always you'll be creative about it. And then that's where you can utilize it to benefit yourself, whether in your, in career, if speaking about, going to the workforce, and then if something don't work out, but if you're working on something you're passionate about, you always find a way to survive it, whether it's, if you're passionate about designing, for instance, design could evolve in so many things, whether it's selling. You find a way to continue doing that because you're passionate about it. Doesn't matter how difficult the situation gets.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, so it could be in different industry, but say your passion is about. Say, for instance, it's selling. If previously you're selling real estate, real estate is not selling very well, but you're good at selling. You'll find one way or the other. You'll find your way out to continue doing that because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
It's different if you stop doing or losing a job or interest in doing something you're not passionate about. You probably just don't care, right? You just whatever.
I
move
think
on.
it's all about the passion that keeps you going as well. Wow, but that's really really nice to hear from you about that advice on being open. I think it's very important, especially with the younger generation these days, to go in with an open mind and also to be prepared to see what's coming next, because like you said, sometimes things don't go as planned.
Exactly. You could be I think it's very common now too, as we evolve, right, the world and the market. You're going in for a certain degree, when you come out, the market completely changed. Suddenly there's a whole new market for you to delve into that has nothing to do with whatever you studied in college with. So these are the kind of things that you got to adapt to.
Yeah.
Does not mean that whatever you studied is not available anymore.
Yeah.
You just got to adapt and then utilize what you know, what you have learned, and continue to learn.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I think this would be definitely a great tip to all our listeners
Yeah,
to
I hope so.
to
I
this
hope.
session. We'll move on to our next segment,
Sure.
where we will do a very quick rapid fire round.
Mhm,
So I will be giving you out a few questions. Just give me the answers on what comes up to your mind first.
Sure.
Right, so the first one, let's kick in. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning.
Morning
definitely,
person, all right, okay. One skill everyone should master, what would that be?
Communication.
Communication, excellent. Well, to add on, we do teach communication as well
There you
as
go.
part of life skills. So yeah, bingo. One word you would use to define success, what would that be?
Happiness.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Why is that?
If you're not happy, nothing really matters. Really, you don't happiness or slash satisfactory or satisfaction. Being
Right.
satisfied with what
You do.
you do. Yeah,
Okay.
being fulfilled. So
Right.
that's happiness, satisfaction, being fulfilled.
Okay.
You could be doing something and be very successful in doing it very well. I mean, and doing it very well means you could be compensated very well for it.
Okay.
So that could translate to being rich,
Right.
but then like sad also at the same time because it's not fulfilling. So I think, yeah, success, fulfillment is key.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What is that one best advice you have received in your life? Very deep.
Right. One
Yeah.
best advice.
someone has given to you. You've
Yeah.
received it.
Listening with 2 ears and speak with 1 mouth.
Huh.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate further on that?
So listen more than you speak.
Speak. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are given a set of.
Right.
We have our ears. We have our mouth to speak. I think that could mean a lot of things, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of. What do you mean by that? It could mean a lot of things, but to me, it means that listen more than you speak out, because your words is your. It defines you. And it's also two-way.
Okay.
When you listen more, you're also communicating
Right.
that you're listening.
Okay.
Because when you listen more, everything that you say or you reply to will provide more context or understanding
Okay.
to the other person, so that allows for better communication. And better communication is always like better relation, lead up to better relation between two person, a group, community, society, and the world as a whole.
Okay.
Because a lot of times communication that is not efficient causes a lot of problems in this world. So I think
Very
one of
true.
the simplest things we could do when we have problems is to listen and then to understand it before we speak out.
Right. I think this is one of the best advice I've received, honestly. What would be that one favorite activity to recharge yourself?
For me,
Yeah.
I have two.
Okay. Bring it
One
on.
is cooking,
Definitely.
and another is skateboarding. So these two, yeah, I do these two things. These are my two passion,
Okay.
outside of my, or again, this is part of me as well.
Okay.
I enjoy cooking a lot. Sometimes it becomes a routine for me after a long day of work. Other than exercising, like taking a walk,
Okay.
cooking is meditation to me.
Wow. That's really nice. So I hearing that you cook on a daily basis.
Yes, almost.
Wow.
Almost,
Okay.
yeah.
That's great. That's great. It's definitely a great skill to have. What about skateboarding? You mentioned.
Yeah.
about
So this is a passion of mine that I picked up since I was a teenager.
Okay.
A lot of the things that happened to me throughout my my life up to this point also involved skateboarding a lot. I meet a lot of people through skateboarding. They
Wow.
have been they're my friends from
It's the networking comes in.
yes, to this
Right.
day in various stages of our lives.
Okay.
Skateboarding brought me the understanding of being in a community.
Mm.
So when I was sharing an earlier story about me being in the U.S. and trying to adapt,
Yeah.
um, I owe a lot of my adaptability and resilience through skateboarding. So
Wow.
because I was a skateboarder, so I found my community, the skateboarding
Right.
community.
Okay.
So that's where I learned to adapt.
Connected to them as well.
Yes, connected to them, and then they accepted me like their own family. So so easier, a lot comfortable for me to mold into the society or community at the time. So that really helped. And once you're in, you're seeing it from their perspective, seeing the environment from their perspective. Then you start to understand, oh, this is why it's like this. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it's not it. I owe a lot of I know appreciation towards skateboarding. Sometimes I didn't realize. Oh, so to this day I still enjoy it.
How
not-
often do you do it these days?
Not as often as I used to, but I
Okay.
still as much as I can. So like over the weekend when I'm available,
Ah,
do like a couple hours of it, and
Wow.
if I get more free time, then I'll do a bit more often.
okay. So
Yeah.
you've got a group of friends here that you go with.
Yeah. There's a decent sized community in KL, so I
Oh,
just go
that's
to any one
nice.
of the skate parks in the city.
Okay.
There's always someone that you know there, so that's just how skateboarding is. You don't need to wait for someone to be you just go. You'll find someone.
Just
You
go in.
click right away.
Oh, that's really nice. I'm so
Yeah.
glad how this skill actually became so handy for you when you're back then in US,
Yeah.
and you're
yeah.
able to connect and find a community while you're trying to adapt to the whole situation of the culture and a completely
Yeah.
different country.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
amazing.
Totally.
One tool you would use to adapt to a new situation, what would that be? Like a tool to adapt.
Would it be a tool? Observation, by observing. I think it goes back to the whole like listen more than you speak
Okay,
thing. So
right.
trying to, when you do that, you're also observing, right?
Right. So it's connected.
Yes.
Okay.
So I do a lot of that. Where when you're in a completely new situation, there's a lot of things that you don't understand. So as much as you want to absorb it, like you try to process it on your own, and perhaps trying to find context behind it as well. I think the tool would be, I think nowadays is a lot easier than before, which is you got your internet, you could chat GPT it nowadays to
Right.
find out things that
Things,
if you
yeah.
cannot easily Google it, you just
Fingertips.
so if you have information ahead of time, it's easier for you to adapt also,
Okay.
understand it.
Right.
So back then, I guess that's why you need to listen more. But now, because there's so much information, people don't listen.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the attention spent to
Exactly.
listen is not
But
that.
this, I don't think it's wrong completely with that. I just think that we should find balance.
Right.
Yeah. So when there's information that's valid, obviously, if it's obviously valid, then use it. But if the information is not available and you need validation, that's perhaps when you need to listen more
Okay.
and trying to, build the validity by listening to this opinion, that opinion. It's like, is that right? And then see what's in front of you. I think that's where,
Wow.
yeah.
That's great. That's definitely a great tool, observation, something that's also related to the whole thing. Thank you. And our last final question for the rapid fire.
Already?
Yes. What would be a quick tip to handle stress? Because being in this particular situation of your life, I understand there would be a lot of challenges. There's also an enormous amount of stress that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
What would be that one thing you think is essential and you do to handle stress?
So everyone handles stress differently. Everyone has different level of what do you call that? Capacity of stress. Some people get stressed out very easily. Some people don't get stressed out very easily.
Yeah.
I think that don't go do things on your own. Meaning like have support system around you. It could be friends, could be families, could be your spouse or whatever. Sharing your thoughts. Talking is good to not sharing your stress, but sharing your thoughts.
Yeah.
Sometimes our thoughts just consume us.
Correct.
Create stress.
Yeah.
But when you talk, when you share, sometimes it makes you realize, oh, it's not necessary to stress about that. Why was I stressing about that? When you talk, you hear a different opinion.
Correct.
Then someone could, sometimes when they hear it for the first time and give their opinion, it gives you a very completely different perspective where they're not worried about it when they hear about it.
Yeah.
Then why were you worried about it? Why were you stressing about it? So I think that's one of the best way to just quick way of handling stress is just
talk
to
to
talk.
someone.
Yeah. But don't make it solely for the purpose of releasing your stress. People don't like to hear that either, right? You know, so having regular hangout, having regular meet up with people, casually talk about it,
right?
Not sounding like you're complaining.
Okay.
I think that would help ease it out. I'm not saying you completely, but it gives you a different way of thinking about it that will unburden you from the stress.
Right.
Yeah. So I think I think that's accessible to everyone, most people at least, where you have friends, companions, whatever. Just casually talk about it, whatever that you can share. I guess without being complaining, right? So little by little, I think it will ease out also the stress over time.
That's great. I think talking, sometimes people misinterpret talking about your stress and releasing stress itself. They see it two different. But thank you for making it really clear, because I think being able to talk your stress out to someone is something everyone should be focusing on, rather than complaining or taking it out on someone or something, which it probably would not be the best way. Yeah.
And I think that also probably we don't think about it as much as we should, is just our overall well-being. Just try to be healthy.
Yeah.
If you're healthy, I think you can, probably not for everyone, but I think in general principle, if you're healthy, you'll be able to handle stress better. You're healthy, you're also a lot more active. And generally people who are active are also good with having people around and all that. So that's when you talk, and I know indirectly you're not as stressful if you're not healthy.
Yeah. The connection that you build, the people you surround with. Yeah. That's great. Right. I think we've come to the end of our session. Thank you so much for all the incredible stories and experiences that you have shared, because I definitely believe all of this is a value added to our listeners, and
Sure.
I hope that they will be inspired in terms of building their own resilience and
Yeah.
adaptability in future,
Yeah, yeah.
being able to relate, because sometimes they feel like we feel how is it that people are, they're in this position in this
Yeah.
this part of their life,
Yeah.
but the reality is when you actually dig deep inside,
Mm-hmm.
everyone have got their own challenges,
Oh,
and
yeah, for sure.
how they bounce back and how
Mhm.
they build. So
Mhm.
I think it's really important, and what you have shared it has been really great.
Thank you so much. Well, I really enjoyed this session, this podcast. Thank you again for inviting me here.
No problem.
I hope that whatever I share could be of value to your students, to your faculty,
Definitely.
and I hope they enjoy listening to this too. I hope it's
Yeah.
not too dry. And I'll be happy to be back next time if you get
yeah.
or brings other people
Yeah, that would be great.
could share
We
share
could-
their values as well.
Yeah. We could explore for future podcasts, but we'll definitely keep in touch with you.
For sure.
And also to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And this is Michelle Francis and Hardy signing off, and hope to catch all of you in the next coming sessions. And meanwhile, conversations on EQ, stay curious and keep growing. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.